once again for tuning in to another virtual election edition of Leaders in Coffee here on Gables Insider. Today we're joined by Miami-Dade County Commission candidate, former Mayor of Pinecrest, Cindy Lerner. Mayor Lerner, welcome back to Leaders in Coffee.
Thank you. It's good to be back, although I miss those croissants, that's for sure.
I think we all do. So Mayor Lerner, tell us about your motivation to run for office.
Well, my original motivation came when I was a practicing attorney here in Miami-Dade County Juvenile Court for the Guardian Ad Litem program, working in an environment where everything emanated from the Florida legislative appropriation and legal process, and clearly was not delivering what the families and abused and neglected children that I represented needed. So I became an advocate outside of the courtroom, started going to the legislature, talking about the needs for these families and the broader community, and realized that there was not a real understanding. They didn't know, and worse, they didn't care about the things that I and all of the Guardian volunteers and everybody who worked in that juvenile court bailiwick cared deeply about. And that's when I came to the conclusion that I knew what the needs were, where the funding should go, so I could be a better advocate if I was in the legislature. I had that recognition then, and it inspired me to run for the legislature, which I did and served in that capacity. Later, was encouraged by the constituents in Pinecrest to run for mayor, and did so, and had a glorious, really glorious 8 years serving in that capacity. But while as mayor, I realized similarly that a lot of the critical needs and issues that needed to be addressed, not at the municipal level, but at the county level, were not being addressed. There was no collaboration with the cities. There was very little leadership on issues like climate change, sea level rise, and transit, and addressing our environmental concerns with water and sewer and septic. So while serving as mayor, I decided when the opportunity became available that I would run for county commission. And here we are.
So you mentioned something that we wanted to touch upon in this interview. The environment has been affected, in particular Biscayne Bay. One of the largest issues is the septic issue. A lot of municipalities in your district have tried to tackle that issue, along with the use of fertilizers that are harming the environment as well. What would you do as commissioner to tackle those issues?
So I have been very much involved in and immersed in water quality issues for many years. I've been a board member of Miami Waterkeeper for several years, which has better informed me on what the real issues are and what governments, whether it's municipal or county or even state, need to be doing. Over the course of the campaign, I attended almost every one of the Biscayne Bay Task Force meetings. I heard the presentations. I spoke when there was an opportunity at public comment during those meetings. And last year during the county budget hearing, I attended to encourage and really to plead with the county commission to treat what was happening in Biscayne Bay and the contamination that's been going on for years, for decades, because of the failed maintenance of the sewer system and failure to address the conversion from septic to sewer. And I urge them, this is an economic and environmental and a public health crisis. Treat it that way and expedite the delayed maintenance that's been going on since the last consent decree. I did what I could as a activist citizen at that time. Sadly, it fell on deaf ears on the commission and on the administration. So that'll be a priority for me to make sure that the recommendations of the Biscayne Bay Task Force are implemented post haste, that there is a chief bay officer, and that the commission make it a priority as well, not only in working with them, but in the committee structure of the commission, so that we are assuring the administration will expedite not only the maintenance and the upgrading of the sewer, but the conversion to septic. I'm living in a home in Pinecrest on septic, and many of us throughout the District 7 don't even have the ability right now to hook up because there's no sewer structure throughout Pinecrest. So that's step number one.
So as far as traffic, it's another issue that's affecting Coral Gables in particular. I think it's one of the larger underlying issues about our transportation issues in South Florida. And District 7 in particular has been heavily affected by this. What can we do to improve the transportation situation in this district?
So for the past 10, 15 years, the county administration and commission have failed to meet the promises that were made from the People's Transportation Tax when it was passed. There has been since 2009, 2010, a diversion of those dedicated funds. And it's only in the past year or two that rededication of the People's Transportation Tax funds has been made so that it will go to expanding transit as it was supposed to. The county could not even go to the federal government for transit funding because we had subverted the dedicated tax to use it for operation and maintenance. Now that it's been redirected, we have been able to get some transit funding for the South Dade corridor. Sadly, the decision 2 years ago by the TPO to choose the mode of transportation to be rail, whether light rail or metro rail, was put off for another time. And the short-term answer will be bus rapid transit. But for me, the commitment to expand that transit so there'll be a one ticket ride from Homestead to the Broward County line, which is what we had expected all along. Once we have that real transit system, all of the gridlock that those of us who live in District 7 experience or used to experience is not quite as bad as it was because of people working remotely, but it will get worse again. Gridlock will be seriously reduced, I believe, once we have real transit options along that US 1 corridor.
So what can we expect from a Commissioner Cindy Lerner over the next 4 years?
So one of the things that I instituted as mayor and plan on doing as commissioner is engage. I show up. I am throughout the community at every community meeting I can get to. I listen and I respond. I did that as mayor. I convened advisory committees. I had one on education, at a youth advisory council. I will convene one on parks, because parks are one area of the county that we have really failed to invest in. If you compare the city parks in the district with the county parks, our county parks look desolate and poorly maintained. They have not been upgraded. And Chapman Field Park, which I grew up and my kids grew up playing ball there, has been closed down for 6 years now. We have not been able to get the county to remediate the contamination, give us back our 3 ball fields, and that's a critical need. So every county park, the Commodore Trail, the Ludlam Trail, all of these wonderful green spaces have got to be addressed and improved. So I will have a parks department to take input, committee to take input, and then work with the county parks department to make sure that they're master planning.
Mayor Lerner, thank you so very much for joining us here on Gables Insider. And thank you also very much for watching. Tune in next time for another Leaders in Coffee here on Gables Insider.